in the sanctuary today with the president of the Baker Group, CEO and founder of Active Nutrition and Supplements, Mr. Trevor Baker. Trevor, it's nice to meet you, man.
You missed one.
I miss the social guru.
No, Social Guru was purchased by the Baker Group.
Okay, I got it. I looked through. I saw you had a
Indiana
couple.
Muscle.
Gotcha. So you're running that.
Yeah. So Eric Schmidt, Eric and Krista, they did it for
Move that close.
30. They did it for about 30-ish years.
Yeah.
We're going on year 30 this year.
Right.
And so over the last 5 years, I've helped them. And so this year is the first year of us co-promoting it together. So,
Do you guys have a show coming up?
yeah,
in
May 17th, Old National Events Plaza, which
Gotcha.
is going to be like, I love what I do, and I love putting on the show.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it never ceases that probably in about 20 days, I'll hit I'm ready for the show to be here and be done.
Yeah.
Attitude, right?
Yeah.
Just like people in prep, right?
Right.
They're ready for it to be here. For me, it's like people don't understand what goes into that, right? Into the muscle. And so, like, we have to rent the venue, right? So when you walk into the Old National Events Plaza, it is a 60.
Tilt that microphone just actually.
It is a 60,000 square foot room. It's just a room. It's four
Right.
walls.
Yeah. And you've got to make a lot happen within those four walls.
A lot.
Yeah.
Right. So we use every piece of staging Old National Events Plaza has.
Gotcha.
Like every single one.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, like this year's going to be a little bit different. And I was kind of waiting for your podcast to kind of announce this.
Cool.
So you need to make a big deal out of it.
Let's go. We're going to blow it up. You're hearing it right here first.
We're kind of changing up how we do things with the muscle this year, and it's going to be kind of cool. So pre-judging will take place in the morning, but we're going to separate the expo and the show this year. So the show, it will go on, and to be able to get into the show, to be able to watch the show, you will have to purchase tickets.
Sure.
Right? But the expo side, that morning, we're going to be opening it to the public.
Oh, cool.
So we're going to be opening it to the public from 11 to 2. So the doors will open for the muscle around 9. And then the show will start right around 10.
I got you.
Right? So then we'll give an hour for them to have exclusive to the vendors, all of that good stuff. And then we will, the way it's designed is there's a wall and then there's like almost a tunnel to get into the venue or into the show portion.
Right.
So you will not be able to see the show at all. From the expo.
I like
and
that.
Then the free will go from 11 to 2, and then finals will open that temporary wall up, so it will be the full venue again. So
how did that used to be? If you just paid to get into the expo, they would let you into the show,
no, you
or
pay
vice
to
versa?
Versa. So the show is what the tickets are for.
Gotcha.
Right, but this year we've got so much stuff going on at the expo, it's not even funny.
Yeah.
So, for example, we've got First Form will be, as a sponsor. Optimize You is our title sponsor this year.
Cool.
So they're going to be set up. We'll be set up.
Is First Form out of St. Louis?
First Form is out of St. Louis.
Gotcha.
So, we do a ton of First Form.
Have you been to those headquarters?
Multiple times.
I've just seen the pictures. It's awesome, and it looks like.
So you have to think. So a normal warehouse is probably 400,000 square foot. They've got 3 of those. Yep.
Yeah.
So huge. So last year we went 3 times. Yeah. So last year me and Austin went up in February. Austin and Justin went up in February to evaluate First Form.
Gotcha. What does that consist of?
More or less just checking to make sure that they were on point with us, right? And what we found was something completely different, right? Like
not what you were hoping?
We weren't up to standard for them.
Okay.
Right? In our eyes, right?
Sure.
You know, you walk into their headquarters and there is literally a Ferrari in their lobby, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, we went up, we did that. Then we went up for Summer Smash. Summer Smash is this huge party they throw every year.
Yep.
And that was great. And then Mike Fox came down for the Indiana Muscle. So that was awesome last year. And then in September, you know, we wanted our managers to kind of experience that eye-opening experience that me, Austin, and Justin experienced. So we that's where we took all of our managers last year for our manager retreat. So it was really cool to actually be able to sit down and see them, like, it come full picture, right?
This is kind of what we're aiming for. This is big picture. It's nice to see it.
It's nice to see it, yeah. And the nice thing is, like, you know, people talk about standard and people talk about all sorts of things, right? But developing and executing that standard is a very, very hard thing and a very, very painful thing to do.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is, like, for example, if you, like, just off the wall, right? Like, you introduce a standard into a corporation or something like that, it's very hard if you don't have everyone's buy-in.
Yeah.
And to get people's buy-in, like, we'll just be honest, sometimes you have to get people off the bus.
Yeah.
And from a CEO standpoint, you know, we've grown to a point where, like, I am able to work on the business. I'm able to look at the growth of the company, look at, like, the overall picture. And then we've got Justin and Hope. Justin's our chief operating officer. Hope is one of our regional managers.
Yeah, shout out those guys. I know whenever I was looking, you got your whole crew, 4 or 5 people there. So talking to you today, I want to make sure that we shout all those people out.
So
you've got the whole crew rocking.
We have a leadership team. We've got our management team. We have our marketing team. So, you know, there's a lot of moving parts, right? A lot of people are like, oh, you've got 6 stores. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But, Chase, there's some days I want to just not go to work.
Yeah. Wish there was no stores for just a second.
Yeah, like, just no stores. And
you just opened number 6, by the way.
Just
congratulations
opened number
on
6.
That. And while I'm on congratulations on the Indiana State sponsorship. That's awesome.
Appreciate that.
So that's huge. I know we're kind of jumping ahead.
No, you're fine. Like, we can kind of dive into some of this stuff. But, like, the West Side we didn't see it coming, to be completely honest. We got an offer to go over there. And, you know, Austin and I was hesitant. Like, we asked ourselves, is this something we really want to do? And
why the hesitate? How does that, so whenever you say we got an offer to basically be let in over there, is that you have to go through sort of like,
no,
is
so
there like a chamber, or like
no,
you just got a good deal on a property?
We have a realtor here in Evansville for commercial. His name's Scott Hyatt.
Okay.
And he just kind of branched out and did his own thing, and super proud to work with him. He goes above and beyond, right? I'll tell you a funny story, and he might kill me for saying this.
Okay.
If you know me, you know, the guys at BFit, everything like that will tell you this too. But if you know me, you know, there's a public side of Trevor, and then there's a very private side of Trevor, right?
Okay.
And there's very few people that gets to see the private side, right? And that's by design,
sure,
right? But it's only people I really and truly trust, right?
Of course.
And so
they have to be.
Yeah. But what I've learned is in business, 90% of people, when you're dealing with business relationships, right, once you get your foot in the door, the professional side of it kind of goes out the window a little bit.
It's kind of like everything else.
It's kind of like everything else, right?
Yeah.
Is, you know, at the end of the day, you're buddies, right? Like, our partnership with BFit, like, it's been amazing. We do a ton of stuff. Like, you know, after the Indiana Muscle gets done, We will be planning our second annual Family Fit Night with them, where we block off pretty much East parking lot.
I remember that last year.
Yeah.
I remember you guys doing that last year.
That will be, so we're bringing that back again this year.
Cool.
And, but yeah, so when you get past that barrier, right, people always think, oh, well, you have to be professional, all right? Mm-hmm. And you do to a certain extent, right? Sure. But, you know, there's times that, you know, Trey and Jenny from BFit will joke around just about wild stuff, right? Nothing inappropriate, nothing like that. Sure. But just friend stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
I get what you mean, yeah.
Like Jenny was having a hard week, right? And I tried my darndest, and I don't think she knows this.
Yeah.
To figure out a way to get into the corporate office, a BFit. And when I say tried my darndest, like I work out at 4 a.m., right? Yeah. If I would have come at 8, it'd been different. But I was going to toilet paper our office.
Okay.
Right? just having fun, right?
Yeah.
So like it's one of those things that it's like when you finally hit that barrier, right? And I tell that story not to like flex a relationship or anything. Sure. I tell that story simply because like at the end of the day, the people who hold power over organizations and stuff, they're just normal people.
Sure.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's all about drive and how you got there.
And a lot of times those people have, you know, once you start to speak with them, you realize you have similar mindsets, and there's a reason that you wanted to, you know, you remember why you wanted to be in that room. Correct. With that group or with those, you know, and especially whenever you have a group of people that kind of like you touched on earlier that buy into that.
Yeah. And like going back to Scott real quick, like, you know, Scott and I have a great working relationship, right? And, you know, we were going back and forth on this lease on the west side. And I'm one of these people, and my employees will tell you this, everyone will tell you this, that I'm a very hard person to work for. And the reason for is because I expect excellence, and I have standards. Now, there's times where that is like, okay, like there's a situation, right?
Right.
But when I get focused on something, it could be the smallest detail in the world, right? And the detail in the grand scheme of things might not matter, right? So we were going through this detail with the West Side lease, and, you know, our attorney had told me it was not a big deal. Scott had told me this detail was not a big deal. And I had emailed Scott, and I'm like, I definitely want this changed.
Yeah.
And everything else was done.
Yeah.
And, like, in my defense, like, I was just focused on something, just a small, minute detail.
Yeah.
And Scott's response to me was, Trevor, sign it and stop aggravating me.
Yeah.
Right?
You're right.
And at the end of the day, those are the type of people you want to do business with, right? Those are the type of people that at the end of the day, when you call them and say, I've got a problem, they're going to be there, right? If you can find those professionals that you can joke with and enjoy life with while making money, there's not a lot better things.
That's the goal. Yeah. I've noticed that even just kind of starting this podcast and reaching out to people, or like if there's people I feel like I may not hear back from, or like will have no interest in speaking to me, and I've had a couple of those, and I went, and like a couple of these have panned out, and hopefully are going to continue to pan out, and you realize that how short you sell yourself whenever. Really, it's like a kind of a respect thing I've noticed with a lot of these people. Whenever you just present yourself off the bat a certain type of way, and you get that mutual like understanding of that we're all here with the same goal.
Yep.
We're taking this serious. It's amazing what can get done whenever, like you said, you have a group of people that really believe that.
And, you know, to put that in perspective. So there, and I can send you some pictures if you want to overlay some, but we walked into that location. We put the first coat of paint on the wall January the 27th. And when I say the first coat of paint, like sample packs from Lowe's going on the wall to see what colors.
Right. Yeah.
It was an old nail salon. So the ceiling had to be painted. Like the place had to be completely redone, right?
Yeah, I remember the pictures early of you guys in there.
So 23 days.
It seemed like
23 days from when we got the keys
yeah,
to the VIP party.
yeah.
23 days.
It seemed like I saw the building like it was like a Monday, and I'm like, oh, they're opening up a new location first, and I mean, I don't know everything, but I feel like I'm fairly up to date with a lot of the fitness stuff going on around here. And so I see this building going up, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. Not that I go to the West Side a lot, but I was like, this is cool. And yeah, it just seemed like a month later I was seeing that doors are open, and it was ready to rock just like that.
So, and that's where that teamwork comes in, right? So, for example, like we had in that first week, right? We had an AM and PM shift, is what we called it. Well, Marcus came up with it.
Yeah.
Any of the funny names, Marcus most likely came up with.
Yeah.
But like that first week, me and Austin and Pascal, we would go over, like we'd get all the work done at the corporate office. We'd get in early, get it done. And then around 12 o'clock, we'd go to the west side.
Yeah.
We put the first coat of paint on. We'd let it dry. Marcus, Gunner, and the others would come over around 6, put the second coat on. And that went on for about a week.
Yeah.
And, it took everyone involved to get it done. There was a couple of work days where we had athletes out there helping. But to say it was a miracle to pull off in 23 days would be the understatement of the century.
Yeah.
Right? Like, no joke, the day of our VIP party, we were still putting product on the shelf.
Yeah.
So, and then the VIP party happened, which is kind of just where we open the doors to influential people, right? Our families,
Sure.
stuff like that. That happened on a Wednesday, I believe. Then Thursday and Friday, we were putting final product on the shelf. We had to add some more shelves because we underestimated how much product we'd actually purchased.
Yeah.
And put the coat on put a floor or the polish on the floors.
Yeah.
And opened up Saturday morning.
Yeah.
And so I think it speaks to a lot about the community that we serve and
Definitely.
What you build. And at the end of the day, you can either, one of the things I struggle with very much so is depression, bipolar depression to be exact, right?
Okay.
And
have you always struggled with that?
100%. So we can go a little bit more in depth about that at a later date.
Sure.
But one of the things that has come from that and has come from the success of Active for me personally, and even my one of my good friends and my coach who lives in Texas, is just being yourself. Like through all of that, like what I have found is if I just wake up and look in the mirror and say, okay, I'm Trevor, and if you don't like me, that's fine.
Right.
Right. That's helped a ton, but I think it's also attitude and mindset, right?
Definitely.
So, for example, like if you get up and you say today's going to be a shitty day because I'm depressed, it's going to be a shitty day because you're depressed.
Shitty day, yeah.
Right?
Right.
If you're feeling that way, okay, get your ass up and go to the gym, right? Now, there are situations, I will admit, there are situations where I've laid in bed all day. So I get both sides of it.
Oh,
right? Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, to be completely honest. Like, I was going to go down to my grandmother's house, and, she knows I struggle with it. My cousin knows I struggle with it. And so I was going to make a fruit pizza to take down for Christmas Eve. And decided I did not want the grapes, and I don't eat grapes. So I decided that I was going to throw them in the trash. And So, in the apartment complex I live in, we have trash service. Well, they'd not come. So I had left this trash bag just in the corner of my kitchen because they were coming the next day.
Sure.
Looking back, I should have put it in the laundry room. Bo, my dog, is the most spoiled animal you've ever met in your life.
Yeah.
Literally, maybe shouldn't admit this, but I'm going to. He gets a 8-count chicken nugget from Wendy's every Friday night.
Oh, there you go.
And being active, having as much influence in businesses that I do. Right. I'm 33. And this might sound a little weird to some people, but like I grew up around death. Right. So my grandparents, who I spent I'd probably say 80% of my time with, they owned a mortuary company. So, I remember getting up at 3 a.m. on a Friday, right, or a Friday night, and getting in the van and going to sleep in the room with the day bed that they had built at the mortuary because they were responsible for me, but they had a business.
Sure.
Right. So I think, and I think that's led into a lot of who I am, and just if it needs to get done, it needs to get done, and it doesn't matter if it's 1 a.m. in the morning or if it's 6 o'clock in the morning, right?
Yeah.
But going through all of this, like my will, like I've got a will set up, trust. I've got trust set up for a few people in my family, and Bo has a trust. And he has 2 guardians. If something happened to me, Austin, my business partner, gets him first.
Yeah.
And then my friends Tim and Maddie are second. And the only reason that is not I don't trust either one of them over the other.
Right.
Austin has 1 dog, and Tim and Maddie have 3 with a second kid on the way.
I got you.
So like that was taken into account.
Yeah.
But literally the writing of Bo's trust fund. Like, if I were to die tomorrow, $5,000 would be deposited into this account.
But yeah.
So Austin can buy him chicken nuggets.
Good.
Like that is literally.
I love to hear that shit. I love because like I said, you saw our 2 dogs, and like I can't.
And every time, like any time that like, if you know me, I'm a terrible driver. So anytime Austin gets in the car with me, and like we come close to getting into a wreck or something, he's like, "I don't want Bo, right? I'll take him, but I do not want to have to buy chicken nuggets every Friday night."
Right. Yeah.
And I always just respond. I was like, "And if you don't, I'm gonna haunt your ass."
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
that's a.
So like,
I get it. We don't have kids right now. It's just me, her, and the dogs, and so those are our babies. Yep. And like we joke a lot, but she tagged me in a post the other day on Facebook talking about. It said whenever it comes to my dogs, actually, matter of fact, let's not even let it come to that.
Yeah.
She tagged me and I was like, that's exactly right. Like, let's not even let it get to that point.
Yeah. So I actually had a. We'll get back to business here in just a second.
Yeah.
I actually had a date with a guy. And I don't know if I should have met this on a podcast, but I'm going to anyways. Had a date, came over to the house, and we'd been talking for probably 3 or 4 weeks. We'd went on a couple dates, but he'd never been over to the house.
I gotcha.
So he drove about an hour, and he was going to stay the weekend. And he gets to the house, and he sits down on my bed because I think I was getting ready for the gym. And Bo jumps up on the bed. And this dude goes, "Mutt, you need to get down." And I peeked my head around the bathroom, and I was like, "What'd you say?"
Oh.
And he goes, "The mutts don't belong on the furniture."
Gots to go.
And I go, "Do you want to reevaluate that statement?" He goes, "No. Why does it matter?" Chase, I might have walked out of the bathroom in nothing but my basketball shorts, shirtless, no socks, no shoes, I might have grabbed his bag, walked it outside, put it on the top of his car, and been like, "We can stay friends, but this isn't gonna work."
Yeah, rightfully so. I don't blame you. I've always said, my dogs are very friendly dogs.
Yeah.
But like if I had someone in my house and like something was happening, they were like, I don't know, to snip or something. If something like that was ever happening, it's like, look, like I'm on his house. Like I'm sorry, but this is his house.
Now, don't get me wrong.
No.
Bo has had his episodes, right?
Sure. Well,
and there have been times that Bo is like, for the last almost 10 years now. Well, I got him in 2015, so
yeah,
10 years.
10.
It's just been us, right?
Yeah.
It's just been me and Bo.
Sure.
So, if another dog comes in, like Bo does not like other dogs at all, right? He gets along with Tim and Maddie's dogs. He gets along with Austin's dogs, and Austin's dog is the exact same way. Austin's dog's a rescue, but they've grown up together. Like
Right.
Austin and I have been business partners for 7+ years now.
Mm-hmm.
So, he's been around them. So that's a big deal. So, there's a lot more of that to dig into. But business-wise, what questions do you have for me?
Well, I would like to get back to the kind of Indiana State. You guys, the sponsorship there. Are they gonna let you like meet Larry Bird or what?
Probably not that.
Damn.
But one of mine and Austin's big things has always been excellence in performance, right? I said it on a different podcast. One of the things that we built our company on was, hire the right people, get out of their way, let them do their job, right?
Gotcha.
But in order to do that, they have to have the tools they need to be able to be successful, right? So same thing with ISU and a lot of these universities and even high schools. We went and talked to a ton of high schools as well. Everyone sees stuff everywhere these days, right? We are constantly fed content, right? And I get why we are, as we're recording a podcast.
Right, yeah.
But, a lot of that information can be detrimental, right? Like, I'll get on TikTok and I'll see a kid dry scooping 4 or 5 scoops of pre, right? Or I'll get on a podcast and see someone be like, oh, if you want to lose weight, you don't need to intake this amount of protein. Yes, you do.
Yeah, right.
Yes, you do.
We become people are just so quick to just say any off the wall shit, just for maybe a clickbaity type of video
1,000%.
or like what. And it sucks that those people do that, and then it also sucks that we have people that buy into some of this stuff and believe it. And it's like man, how do I side on this? Like because you should know better, but you should also know better. It's like it's tough to.
So like we at Active, like our big thing, our goal going into the ISU deal was a couple of things. One, we have always been a community store.
Yeah.
Always.
Yep.
Always will be, right? And honestly, Chase, like there's days that it would be easier not to be, right? There are days it'd be easier to be a corporation store and be done with it, right?
You guys are the standard. I'm sure you're aware, but especially in this area, and I tell everyone about A&S. Anyone that talks to me, I'm like, no, that's the place. It's the best it's the best supplement store in this area I've ever been to.
I appreciate that. And there's been hiccups, there's been ups and downs, and me and Austin still consider ourselves a small business, and we have a 3,000 square foot warehouse. We have our own delivery service. Like the infrastructure's there, right?
Yeah.
We built a pretty amazing infrastructure.
Yeah.
But when it comes to ISU, one of our biggest things was focused on performance, focused on the subs they're taking, what they're taking, how they're taking it, right? And when Austin and I developed Active, right? And you might have to beat me out here, but there's literally a line in our business plan that says, we are not GNC or Vitamin Shop. Like, those are words inside of our business plan. And, because at the end of the day, like, if you look at both of those brands and you go into their stores and you start picking up product, and you know where to look, right? All of those products are made for a company that share the same address as GNCHQ. Same thing with Vitamin Shop, right?
Yeah.
So,
and
our big thing is quality.
Right. Yeah, that's where I was going. It's those aren't scientists that run those stores, or those aren't.
Now they might have formulations, they might have people there, but the difference of that is they're going to do everything they can to make that product as profitable as possible.
Of course.
Right.
Of course.
So that's huge, right? When we can kind of tap into that and say, okay, like, we don't carry anything that is our name brand, right?
Right.
And that gives us a lot of flexibility. There's pros and cons, right? The cons are we can make our own product and make a hell of a lot more profit, right?
Yeah.
The cons on that are, like, at the end of the day, we would much rather get products that have already been developed, first form, Rise, stuff like that we know it. Axe and Sledge, right? We are in the process of, me and Austin are in the process of doing some capital contributions. And that takes some time, right, as far as a business goes. But pretty much we're to the point where, Active is starting to outgrow the infrastructure that it has.
Yeah,
right?
I can see that.
So, Austin and I are in the process of doing a capital contribution to bring in a few new brands, right?
Can you talk about any that you're looking at?
I can talk about the possibility of them.
Okay.
I can tell you a few that are being considered. Nothing's been decided yet.
Okay.
BPN, Bear Performance Nutrition, is being considered.
Nick Bear's
awesome. Transparent Labs is being considered. So those are two of the big ones that are being considered. Yeah,
I'm very familiar with both of
those. Transparent Labs, mainly because we have a lot of people that come in that just want something as clean as possible, right?
Right.
And then you've got other people that come in that's just wanting something performance-based, right? And I think the big thing, going back to ISU real quick, and then I can talk a little bit more about that. With ISU, it's more about performance, and it's more about getting those athletes what they need and when they need it, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, for example, last week we went up and we weighed in the entire football team, right?
How's that?
It was actually pretty fun. They were actually doing
level size of human beings, huh?
Yep, and they were doing max bench press day.
Oh, so you got to watch?
We got to watch.
Using all of the subs that you brought, or what?
No, we just weighed them in that day, right? But one of the big things is that we've developed is, like, we have a piece of software, right? That we can actually give access to these coaches. So, like, when we do a first initial weigh-in, right, they're actually able to. We're actually able to tag those players with a tag, and then give the coach access to that tag. So the ISU coaches, if one of those players come to any Active Nutrition location and weigh in, it will
an alert.
It will automatically update them on
that's crazy
muscle mass.
Wow. Is that new? I've never.
It's all part of our Fit Manager system.
Is there a lot of schools that are doing this, or that you know of, or
this
crazy?
Is the school program we are this is a program we're building from the ground up.
Wow.
ISU's the first, one of the first. KWC did a little bit of it, but ISU, and we told them this. We just said, hey, like, we've done this on a smaller scale.
Yeah.
Right. But ISU's our first D1 school that we're developing this program.
How do those tips kind of work? How do you track these guys?
So first off, we put them on the InBody just like you would come in and track. So we set a baseline, and then we start looking at nutrition, we start looking at muscle mass, we start looking at all that stuff, right?
Are you delivering meal plans and stuff like that to these guys?
Not yet.
Or
they've got nutritionists and stuff on staff there. Sure. But it's more about giving them the results. Like, now their protein and stuff, all that stuff's purchased through us, through ISU,
Yep.
And that's delivered weekly to them.
Yep.
But it's more about the performance side of it, right? And how we can help those coaches educate these boys. But we're looking at muscle mass, we're looking at body fat, we're looking at hydration, we're looking at all that stuff. But then the next step of that, right, that the next phase of what comes after that's really fun, right? As far as high school kids or college kids go, especially athletes, they're super competitive.
Yeah.
Right? So then what we're able to do is we're able to break them up into two groups. The coaches are able to break them up into two groups. This group needs to gain muscle mass and this group needs to cut weight.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And then we're actually able to build out challenges just like we do in store. Specifically private challenges for that team.
Cool.
So then this group over here that's needing muscle mass, right? Now they're competing against each other.
Yeah.
Right? About who can get the biggest.
Yeah.
This side over here is competing who can lose the much body fat, right? So it brings that competitive aspect into more than just, you know, the day-to-day on the field.
Or
right?
just a game. You're
Correct.
kind of pouring back into that yourself, you know, in a way that you're kind of already going to be doing anyway. It's And
then of course like the normal stuff. So like the students got a discount, the faculty got a discount, the athletes got a discount. Actually the student and athlete discount's the same, just due to NCAA rules. But like at the end of the day, it's one of those things that, you know, me and Austin's developed this culture, right?
Yeah.
And I think what a lot of people lose, and they lose it very quickly when they start to get big, and you can ask all my staff, like, if I see a staff member that's not doing that, like not pushing forward with the standard and their goal, like, we have a conversation.
Sure.
Right? And we've got something called Open and Honest at the store, which has helped us tremendously. And it is, like I said in the beginning, leaders are just people, right? So, like, let's say someone who just started 2 weeks ago has a problem with their manager or has a problem with how they do things or we're doing something, right?
Yep.
They can literally call me, who is 1, 2, 3, 4 people above their supervisor.
Sure.
And say, open and honest, I think we're doing this wrong.
Gotcha.
Right? And I think what a lot of business leaders forget, right, is you sitting behind a desk on a computer. You don't get to feel the actual living, breathing pulse of that company, right? And they do, right? So you have to figure out a way of, one, how do I take that feedback and how do I execute a solution? 2, does this require me to step in, right? And then 3, how do we make those people still feel like they are a part of the mission if we disagree with their perspective?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, do you run into that conflict where maybe if you have someone that wants to call you with a concern and then the person that the concern is maybe about is, you know, you just can't come to that same page. I mean, I feel like you probably be able to spot those kind of people maybe a little earlier if it's really that big of a problem. Hopefully you would be able to.
The way we designed our systems is trying to figure out how to say this. How to compare. Let's say you've got a lot of black F-150 XLT pickups, right?
Okay.
And a blue one pulls on the lot and parks in between them.
Okay.
Our culture at Active is to a point where that's what it is. Like, within the first month, we will be able to tell if you're going to fit in.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And it's not so much a fit in, it's the culture, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, someone who complains constantly is not going to be a part of the culture.
Sure.
Right? Someone who cannot like there are situations, and these are few and far between now, but there are situations where I'll get a phone call and I don't have a solution, right? Or they don't have a solution, and then I have to help. But most of the time, it is, hey, we've got this problem. These are the 3 solutions we came up with. Which one would you prefer me to do?
Yeah.
Normally, my response is, which one's going to cost us the least?
Sure.
Right?
Easiest, cheapest. Let's look that way
But
first.
at the same time, like, Austin and I don't care to spend money where money needs to be spent.
Of course.
Right?
Of course.
And we've probably spent more money on things that we shouldn't have in the beginning. But
Yeah.
that's part of business, right? It's part of learning.
Well, it's important to have that.
That
of course, it's
perspective.
okay to spend money. I think people get lost in the priority list. Sometimes it gets a little jumbled up, and then you start to the things that you really need for this business, turn into now you're looking at things that you really just kind of want for the business. And next thing you know, where is all of our money going? And
Yep.
but we've got all this shit that we don't really actually need, and we're broke. And
Yeah, and that's the problem is like, we've been there. Like not the broke side, but we've been there where we like look at our warehouse or we look at something, we'd be like, we don't need all this shit.
yeah,
Right? So that is part of it, but it's also part of just the learning side of it, right? But most of my employees know that if they've got a problem with someone else, and the moment we implemented this, things changed, right?
yeah. It's the last question in your guys' application.
I have. I'll tell you a question here in just a second. I'll tell you a question I ask in an interview process, and
Or at least the online one that I've seen.
the question I ask is not on the application because
Okay.
I want to see your face when I ask
Okay.
it. But when someone calls me with a problem with another employee, they know my first question is going to be, what did that person have to say?
Mm-hmm.
If you have a problem with someone in our company and you've not talked to that person, don't call me.
Yeah. You haven't even tried.
Yeah, don't call me.
Yeah.
And I will, like, there's been situations with employees where they've been like, oh, I haven't talked to them yet. And I'd be like, when you do, call me back and hang up.
Yeah.
Right? And some people might look at that as an asshole move, but at the end of the day, it's the culture we've built. And if you can't understand that, you're not going to fit in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And one of the things I've started asking in interviews, especially interviews I'm a part of, right? Mm-hmm. There are people hired that I'm not a part of the interview process, but when they are going to be upper management, when they're going into a new store, when they're even maybe being considered for a training manager and training position, anything that they are going to have the authority to do something above sales, right? I am normally involved in that interview. And one of the questions I ask is it's a little like pushing it, but it's a question I always ask, and which is, if you got into a car accident today, you broke your neck or whatever, like I don't go that deep. I just say, if you got into a car accident today and the doctor came in and said, you're going to die in 24 hours. And you're surrounded by your 3 best friends, what are the 3 life lessons that you would want them to know?
Oh, God.
Exactly, right? And a lot of people are like, that's a really hard question. And they have to think about it for a minute. And people, like, the first time I asked that question, the employee I was interviewing with, like, looked at me weird.
The first thing that popped into my mind right now is I would say slow down immediately. That was the first thing that popped in. If I was dying tomorrow, people around me, everyone needs to slow down.
So
we're running through this life so fast.
And people don't understand the reason it's not I want to know what your life experience is.
Sure.
The reason is it makes you think. And it makes you really put into perspective life lessons you've had. And it makes you dig.
Yeah.
Right? And 90% of the time, I have made full-fledged hiring decisions based off that one question. Because when that's happening, they're having to think, and you can completely tell if someone is bullshitting you or if they're being completely honest.
Yeah.
In that moment.
Yeah, a question like that, it's got to be one or the other, right?
Yep.
It's either I've absolutely never thought of this, or I don't care.
Correct.
Or you can see about out the bat, you're like, oh shit, okay, there's a little more. Let's keep peeling the layers back a little bit. Maybe there's something here.
Correct. And I think also, like, the other side of it is in the hiring process, and it looks like you're going to have me on again because...
Yeah, that's fine. Whatever works for you.
But the thing is at the end of the day, I've hired 2 people. I think a lot of people will laugh when they hear this. I've had 2 people within interviews straight look at me in the interview and say, this store whichever store it was, is not living up to expectations. Right now, the process and the customer experience is crap. Like, totally shitting on that store or location, right? Because, like, there is a standard, but sometimes that falls. Like,
of course.
And with 6 locations, sometimes that falls, and it takes someone else noticing it for me to be able to go in and fix it. Right?
You don't get to see it. It might be 2 weeks before you know about
correct.
it.
But the first time that happened, I was with someone. Someone else was on the interview, and I offered them a position right then and there. And when that person left that interview, that employee that was interviewing with me goes, this isn't going to work. If he's willing to tell you that in an interview, that's just disrespectful. And I think we as a society have got to a point where we don't value honesty.
We want to take things personal, I think.
Yeah. And here's the thing. If a potential employer or a potential employee that has never been hired, ever, has not, like, they're asking you for a job. They see from the outside what your standard is, and they see from the outside what you expect, and they're willing to come into an interview and say that to you. What kind of employer are they going to be? And they're going to be the type of employee that is not going to bullshit you.
Yeah,
right?
There might be someone you want on your team, actually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to bullshit you. They're going to straight tell you how it is, and that's part of it. Right?
We need people like that in our corners, not even just in business. And
yes, personally too. Right?
I married somebody that does that for me.
I've got a couple.
I needed that person. For
Austin is that way for me. Most of my managers are that way for me. My buddy Zach. Most of my friends are that way. Right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
And for me, it's one of those things that, like, I don't want people around me that are going to say yes to me all the time. Right? I want people, like, for example, I'll give you a story today. With depression and everything, sometimes your environment gets messy, right? Because it's just part of it, and you have to keep an eye on it.
Very hectic.
And the other day, I was talking to Austin, and I'm like, with the west side and everything, the warehouse has got kind of disorganized. And I'm like, we need to get this cleaned up. Well, today, we went to get lunch before I came here. And he gets in my truck, and he looks at me straight in the face and goes, before we get to the warehouse, you need to clean your truck, right? So, and I have this expression that's like, I'm pissed, but it's not that I'm pissed. It's like, you're right, and I'm pissed at myself.
I can relate to this.
Me and Austin's had to have multiple conversations about that, of just like, I'm not pissed at you. Like, I'm not upset at you,
yeah.
Right?
I'm mad at probably myself.
Correct.
Just the situation.
Yeah. And the thing is like, when it comes to honesty with people, like, you can't fix what you don't know.
Exactly.
And someone who's just going to say yes to you all the time, it isn't worth your time.
You get annoyed by those people. Okay, I take that back. There are people that love those kinds of people in their lives. And I'm sure you've been around people that like to be filled with the crew of yes men and those people, really think that they're doing something they're probably not. And I think the people that really have that kind of drive and that ambition and they want more out of this, if you have those yes men in your corner, you get tired of them. You get tired of hearing it.
You could probably ask anyone on my staff, and we say yes a lot, right? But there's also a respect that comes with that.
Sure.
Right? And that respect, what I mean by that is we say yes a lot, but when we say no, they know there's a reason.
Sure.
Right? And then they can execute, and then, like, our big policy is, in the moment, do as I ask. Right? If you want to call me at 9 o'clock that night and say, Trevor, I need you to walk me through your thought process on this because I disagreed with your decision, fine. Yeah. I will be more than happy to walk you through that decision.
Yeah.
And a lot of leaders won't. A lot of leaders will say, just because I said so. And that's not a leader, that's a boss, right?
Yeah.
From a leader's perspective, like, I love having those conversations. Now, my employees, I don't know if they like them or not because I go, like, what could have been a 10-minute conversation turns into a 2-hour conversation.
Yeah.
Because then we just start digging and we just keep going. But
sometimes in the moment you don't have the time to address
as
those
a
things.
leader, like, I'd say 90% of the time when I have to have one of those conversations, the moment that conversation exists onward, I never have to make that decision again. Because that employee now knows why I'm giving them the answer, why we don't do it. They know the why. And a lot of people forget that people just want to know the why.
A lot of times they just want to know. I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
I'll ask you why to death, to the point where you're like, and I'm like, I'm sorry, the way I work is like, I just have to know what is going on before I can move forward with this. And that's just kind of how I am. But so I get that. And I think that speaks a lot to just the values and just the foundation that you guys have laid with, I'm sure across all of your companies that you're overseeing. That just speaks a lot to have workers that understand that respect off the bat. That just, you said, it just shows the respect that was given, from leaders and not just bosses.
So, no joke, I have a consulting client that I fired a couple weeks ago. And when I say I fired him, like, it was a $700 a month client. And this is through the Baker Group, and I do consulting work throughout the nation. And the problem is like, this employee or this person had been having issues with this employee over and over and over. And I'm not talking about, like, conduct issues. Like, I'm talking performance, a couple of conduct issues here and there. But they were friends. The owner and this guy was friends.
Gotcha.
And little backstory. Before my dad died, me and my grandmother started this thing. It's monthly dinners at her house, right?
Okay.
And it started with me going down and cooking with her and then us having dinner. And the busier my schedule gets, the harder it is to go down for 3 hours before dinner and cook and all that. So it's just dinners now, but that's in Madisonville. So me and this...
And that's where you're from?
Yes. So I normally just say I'm from Western Kentucky because it's just easier.
I don't blame you.
If you know Madisonville, it's no place to...
That's like saying I'm from North City or Carmi. It's very,
it's
similar.
Yeah, like, if you have to put the best town on earth on your sign, probably not.
Yeah.
Right? Anyways, we'd had an hour-long conversation from when I left the office to when I got to my grandmother's house. And that's through all the construction and everything. And I was trying to convey why this was a bad idea. Well, this guy ended up figuring out where the owner kept money and stole cash out of that place. And I straight told him, I said, you need to fire him. I was like, this is going to become a bigger problem. So I spent a good hour explaining, how keeping him on is going to affect his culture, how it's going to affect his standards, how it's going to affect everything.
Yeah.
And he didn't get it. And I walked to my grandmother's house, and he's still going. And I said, hey, bud, like, I'm not being paid for this conversation. That's fine.
Sure.
But I'm not at my grandmother's house.
Yeah.
The ultimatum is, 1, you fire the employee, or 2, I fire you.
Mm-hmm.
Just that simple.
Because as soon as it starts to affect you, it has to stop with me anyway.
Exactly. So, a couple days pass. I text him. I say, hey, what have we done? I've decided to keep him. And 20 minutes later, I sent him a letter of termination of his contract. And the reason for that is, in business consulting and business and personal and whatever you're doing, right, it's all about environment, right? And if you're not on the same page with the people that you're consulting with, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right? And I've got to a point in my life where I don't want to say I'm super successful by any means. There's still a lot of work to do to get our communities healthier. There's still a lot of work to do to, across the board, across
Absolutely.
multiple different companies. But the problem is like, I get very invested in the things that I'm a part of.
Yep.
Very, very much so.
Yeah.
And I've learned a long time ago that negative stuff like that affects me just as much as it affects them.
Yeah.
And that's just not energy I want in my life, right?
Yeah, so it's almost more of like a personal decision of
It is.
you overlay that into your companies, but at the end of the day, we have to protect ourselves, and not just ourselves as in like our assets and our companies, but like whenever we go home at night and we close the door behind us and we sit down on the couch, and now we're just stuck with everything that has happened and transpired throughout the day, and you have to take those moments into consideration. And whenever you start to let those things affect those moments,
and I think a lot of people, like, you will get it once you get to a point, but you always get it must be nice, right? And what a lot of people don't understand about that
I hate hearing
statement
that shit.
is, like, I get it all the time. Because if you follow me on social media, I travel.
Yeah.
All
You're
the
very
time.
active.
Yeah.
Again, thank you for being here again today.
No
I know
problem.
you're so busy.
But I travel all the time.
Yeah.
Right? And some of them are leisure and some of them are business. Right? I'm going to, March I kind of took off just because of traveling, just because West Side was opening. We had the posing clinic, just a ton of stuff going on here in March. April, I will be going up to Dayton to visit a client, probably down to Lubbock to visit a client. And then April, then we got May, which is Indiana Muscle.
Yep.
So I will not be
Yeah,
traveling.
no time once May comes around.
And then June is Summer Smash. I've got a trip planned to the beach. Like, the purpose of me saying that is people don't see the 12, 14-hour days.
Yeah.
That the travel is not so much a luxury at this point. It is either I go and travel and get out of here for a few days, or I go insane.
Yeah.
Those are the options.
Right.
So a lot of people will come to me and say, well, it must be nice. And, anyone who's watching, just don't say that to me, because
it wasn't always.
That's not what I say.
Yeah, that's what I would be thinking, though.
If you know me, I can be a dick, a big one. And my response, back in the day, I used to say it is. Leave it at that.
Yeah.
Now, I just pretty much look at them and be like, oh, it must be nice for you to sit on your ass all the time, too.
Yeah.
And 90% of the time when you come back with that, it shuts them down right then and there.
Yeah. They have a little come to their senses moment. We're like, well, you know what? He's
Because a lot of people don't understand, like, to build the company Austin and I had built, to build 2 other companies on top of that, right? There have been sacrifices. There's been a ton of sacrifices, right? Do I want to be at my niece and nephew's soccer and football and wrestling? Absolutely.
of course.
Do I want to be at my other niece and nephew's racing 4-wheelers? Absolutely. But what a lot of people don't understand is at the end of the day, like, there's sacrifices that have to be made, and you have to choose how you're going to do that.
You made a commitment to yourself very early on.
I did. And the thing is, at the end of the day, is like, I look at this not so much as my success, but, you know, it got a lot more powerful. Like, the dedication, the work ethic, all of that got a lot more powerful after my dad died, right? Because now the legacy of the name Baker lands on me and my brother,
Sure.
right? And I don't like. This is gonna sound, again, morbid, and 2, I'm not having a funeral whenever I die. So,
Okay.
but the point of me saying both of those is, if I were to have a funeral when I died, my goal would be that place is so fucking packed, that there's going to be so many fucking people there that it can't be held in a normal funeral home.
Hell yeah.
Right? Like, how many people can you touch and how many lives can you change? Right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you know, sometimes it does suck being the top, right? Because you see all these changes that your company's making, that your employees are doing, and you want to be in the forefront of that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you have to understand that it's a team effort, right? And the last thing that I'll say, because I know we're at an hour, but, you know, one thing that I would challenge any business leader to do, and we just did it in the beginning of March and our middle of February, and it's kind of changed our thought process and our perspective on some things. But we abolished all titles in our corporate office.
Cool.
Now on the website and stuff, they're still there, so
Well,
people at least know. But in the office, we're just a team. We're just a leadership team, and at the end of the day, like, it's kind of like Marcus said the other day, like, yes, everyone has their titles, everyone has what they're responsible for, but everyone does a lot more than that.
Of course.
So, you know, at the end of the day, I think the thing that stinks, because I've been there as an employee, is the fact that at the end of the day, as CEO, I get the congratulations. I get all of this, right?
Sure.
From the public. All I'm doing is I'm in the crow's nest, just
delegation.
No, I'm just steering the ship.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The other people are moving the propellers. They're serving the food. Like,
Sure.
So, you know, that's a big thing for us, is making sure they know that they are one of the tops.
Gotcha. So. One question before we put a bow on this thing. Can you give me one, doesn't have to be life, business, whatever, for someone starting out where you were at with no businesses and with the idea they want to become an entrepreneur and pursue their own dreams and start their own company or whatever that is. Can you give a good piece of advice for someone in those early stages that are just starting out with the ideas of, hey, maybe I want to have this company of my own and turn this into maybe something that you have developed your businesses to?
I think you're going to be surprised by my answer. My answer's one-worded.
Okay.
But there's an explanation that goes behind it. Don't start your business. Don't chase your dreams. Unless you are ready to sacrifice every bit of the old person you were. I was having a conversation with my cousin the other day, and even my grandparents, right? 10 years ago when I moved to Evansville, Chase, my grandparents, my cousin, no one would have bet half a cent that I would be where I am. And a lot of that comes with just really not giving a fuck what anyone thinks.
Yeah.
Right? But if you're not ready to just look in the mirror every day and be like, okay, I'm in this position because of your actions.
Yeah.
I'm in this position because of what you did.
You
right?
wanted this.
You wanted this, right?
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to take a hard look, don't start.
Sure.
Just don't. Because at the end of the day, if you think it's going to take you a year, it's going to take you 5.
Yeah.
You think it's going to take you 5, it's going to take you 10.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
And that sucks, right? And there's going to be times you want to give up. There's going to be times where you're ready to, and I'm not disclosing anything, but there will be times where you just want to put the business, put whatever you have up for sale and just leave.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And I'm like, when I say that, I'm being completely serious. There will be times where you just say, no way, I'm done. Right?
Yeah.
90% of those times can be solved by texting your friends, turning off your business, and just relaxing.
Yeah.
But yeah, my answer to that is if you're not ready to take a true transformative journey, not only, your body and your mind, but also just everyone around you, don't do it. Because you will lose friends.
Yeah.
You will lose, it will cost you more than what you think.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
It will cost you way, 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 way more than what you think.
Right.
So you have to be passionate. You have to believe in what you do. Because if you don't, there's no hope.
You'd be miserable.
Whatsoever.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think we'll go ahead and put a bow on this one,
Yes,
Trevor.
sir.
Like I said, I know you're extremely busy, so I appreciate you taking the time
Not
to
a
come over here and
problem.
hang out with me today. If you
All
guys
right.
haven't checked out Trevor yet, he's leading the way in the fitness industry and in the tri-state area. As far as I'm concerned, he's the one. He's leading the charge. You want to stay up on the motivation, the inspiration. Follow Trevor. Follow his company. Stay behind him. It's
I'm
awesome.
sure I'll be back. We've got some more stuff to talk about.
Yeah, I would definitely love to have you back. Absolutely. Also, while I'm at it, quick shout out. If you guys check out the ANS stores, whenever you guys are in there, whenever you guys check out, mention my boy's name, Ramon, at the checkout. It's going to save you a little bit of money on your purchase. It's going to help him out. He's a great guy. I always use it every time I go in there. So if you guys are in there, check out the ANS stores, the best supplements in the southern Indiana, southern Illinois, Kentucky. Best supplements in the area. Shout out my boy Ramon. Use his code. Trevor, I appreciate it. Thanks for being here today.
Brother.
I love you guys. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next one.
Peace.